My boyfriend went to comfort his heartbroken childhood sweetheart. He didn't say anything to me and just left me alone in the restaurant. I don't need a boyfriend like this. That night, I broke up with him, blocked him, and deleted him. Today is Chishi Festival. At this moment, I am sitting alone in an open-air riverside restaurant. All around me are couples on dates, one pair after another. Time passes second by second, but my phone remains silent. The waiter has already come up to me who knows how many times, asking if the food could be served. My boyfriend, Qin Shufan, stood me up again this time. He didn't contact me all day, let alone explain anything to me. Perhaps because I've been treated like this too many times, I now feel numb. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my moments. Unsurprisingly, Qin Shufan's childhood sweetheart, Shen Mengqi, had posted a moments an hour ago. People around me come and go, destined to be unable to stay. Fortunately, you've always been by my side. It's good to have you. The accompanying photos were all pictures of her and Qin Shufan together. The look Qin Shufan gave Shen Mengqi in the photo was filled with immense doting affection, as if his eyes could no longer hold anyone else, only her. Qin Shufan even specifically liked this post on his social media. Suddenly, she felt that her 2 years of dating him were truly like a joke. It turns out that from beginning to end, I never truly entered his eyes. Our mutual college classmates and their childhood friends commented below, "You two finally got together, happy 99. In their stories, I always seem to be a female side character who gets sacrificed, just a minor character adding warmth to their relationship. This relationship no longer needs to continue. This kind of licking dog will inevitably end up with nothing in the end." I sent Qin Shufan a breakup message. Then I deleted and blocked all his contact information. Shen Mengqi and I were classmates in college, and we even shared the same dorm room. On the first day of school registration, I met Qin Shufan for the first time in the dorm. When he came to help Shen Mengqi move in, Shen Mengqi introduced to me that this was her older brother, who attended the same school as us but was a year senior. I fell head over heels for Qin Shufan at first sight, completely losing control from the very first moment. Shen Mengqi noticed this too, and said she would help me create opportunities. After that, in order to bring me and Qin Shufan together, she often arranged for the three of us to go out together for meals, shopping, and movies. Every time Shen Mengqi set a time, Qin Shufan never failed to show up. At first, I thought maybe he had feelings for me too. Later, I happened to find out that they weren't related by blood at all, just close neighbors who had grown up together since childhood. For some reason, after hearing that news, I couldn't help but feel uneasy inside, until the day of Qin Shufan's college graduation ceremony. That night, Shen Mengqi gathered a group of friends they had grown up with, invited me, and also brought along her recent new boyfriend. When Shen Mengqi introduced me to them, she directly said that I was Qin Shufan's girlfriend. Qin Shufan did not deny it out loud. I felt a bit giddy, my mind filled with the thought that Qin Shufan had actually tacitly agreed. At that moment, I completely ignored the strange silence around me and the furtive glances exchanged among the others. During the meal, Shen Mengqi and Qin Shufan left the private room one after another. I got up, intending to go out and use the restroom. When I reached the bathroom door, I heard voices coming from ahead. "How long are you going to ignore my feelings?" came Qin Shufan's voice, filled with resentment. I couldn't see Shen Mengqi's expression, only heard her voice continue. "I don't understand what you're saying. Is that what you really want, me to be with her? Mo Yao is pretty good, isn't she? She's liked you for so many years." "Alright, as you wish." After that day, I started dating Qin Shufan. That's right. The relationship I held in my hands was merely something given to me by others as charity, even though I was painfully aware of the truth and knew he still carried someone he couldn't have in his heart. I still couldn't bring myself to say no when Qin Shufan asked me to be in a relationship with him. At first, of course, I had hoped to let him see my sincerity first and then gradually build up our feelings, but during our relationship, he always remained like an ice cube that could never melt. After telling Qin Shufan that I wanted to break up, I left the restaurant. When ending this relationship, it wasn't as heart-wrenching as I had expected, but at that moment, I still didn't want to be alone. So I decided to go find my best friend, Seong-en. I called her to confirm she was home, then took a taxi to her place. Seong-eun and I have known each other since childhood, but she later went to university in Xinjiang. After graduating from university, she came back here to work. Our relationship is such that even if we don't contact each other for years, we can still get along just like before when we meet. Seong-eun let out a few loud laughs when he heard the news of my breakup. Congratulations. You've finally gotten rid of him. You have no idea how worried I was for you when you were caught up in this relationship. Is that so? I lowered my head, sneering at myself. Indeed, in matters of the heart, those involved are often blind, while outsiders see clearly. I've been fooling myself for so many years. Now it's time to wake up. I still had a high fever before I regained consciousness. I stayed by the riverside too long in the evening, and my body had to pay the price. I had a fever all night, and in my days, it was always Seong-eun taking care of me. It wasn't until the afternoon of the next day that my mind gradually cleared. Maybe I've just been sick for the past few years. Now that I'm better, it's time for my life to move forward. I took another day off. And since Eun saw I was almost recovered, she suggested we go to a club to dance together. Old things must go for new ones to come. The worst thing a person can do is hang on to one tree. Although I don't have the intention to jump into a new relationship so quickly either, it's definitely good to relax a bit. For this, Seong-eun and I deliberately put on a smoky, wild cat makeup, changed into our battle outfits, and prepared to have a long overdue night out. We arrived at the bar during its busiest time. The dim lighting and loud music make it easy to let down one's guard, and the young bodies writhing freely in the center of the dance floor are the best proof. I went to the bar with Seong-eun first and ordered 2 cocktails. While waiting for the drinks, a man suddenly approached us and started chatting. "Pretty lady, please do me the honor of having a drink with me." I turned to look, and the man had a slicked-back hairstyle, a greasy expression, and his mannerisms were extremely flirtatious. I gave a polite smile and shook my head to decline. Unexpectedly, the man didn't give up and stepped closer. "A few guys in the booth over there have taken a liking to you. Do us a favor." He pointed toward the largest booth beside the dance floor. Sure enough, several pairs of eyes, sharp and cunning like foxes, were fixed on us from inside. I couldn't help but feel a chill run down my spine. This is way too scary. Seong-eun suddenly pulled me toward her and shot a glare at the man with the big pompadour. She took my hand and pulled me into the dance floor. "Leave that person alone, just look at the way they're acting. Clearly, they have ill intentions." I nodded. After that, the man didn't come over, and I stopped thinking about it. After dancing for a while, suddenly a loud noise came from the entrance of the bar. Then, a large group of police officers in uniform rushed in from outside, quickly sealing off all entrances and exits of the bar. Many people around were frightened, with screams echoing in all directions. The music abruptly stopped. "Everyone, put your hands on your head and squat down." That was it. A group of us who had just been having so much fun were all taken to the police station without exception. On the way, Seong-eun and I looked at each other in confusion, completely clueless about what had happened. After getting off the vehicle, someone suddenly called my name from the side. "Mo Yao." I stopped in my tracks and turned to look. The male police officer standing beside me, dressed in uniform, was strikingly tall and handsome, having already drawn glances from several young girls earlier. But now, up close, his face seemed oddly familiar. Yang Kexing. I met him in college. His school was the police academy right next to ours, but I don't recall having much contact with him. How could he still remember my name, in this situation? I could only force a stiff yet polite smile. "Long time no see." Yang Kexing didn't ask further, glanced at me for a moment, then said, "Let's go, I'll take you in first." Under the curious gazes of several officers around us, we cut in line and entered the police station's lounge through the side door to have some tea. After we had been sitting in the lounge for a while, Yang Kexing finally came in from outside. "Earlier, the plainclothes officers who were undercover in the bar said you had a brief conversation with someone from that criminal gang." "Ah," I murmured, puzzled. Seong-eun, who was standing nearby, seemed to recall something. "Oh, was it that greasy guy who approached you earlier?" It suddenly dawned on me, and I nodded. "There was a guy at the bar who tried to hit on me just now, but thankfully Seong-eun pulled me away." After a brief pause, I asked again, "But what did Officer Yang and his team do?" Yang Kexing raised his eyes again, scanning me with that unfathomable gaze. drug trafficking, human trafficking, shit, so I just barely escaped death. Yang Kexing lowered his head, flipping through the documents in his hand, which seemed to contain personal information about me and Seongan. Someone will come to take you for a urine test later. Please cooperate well. Yang Kexing put down the documents. If there's no problem with the test, you can leave first. Thank you, Officer Yang. He nodded and stood up to leave. As he reached the door, he seemed to remember something, then turned back and said to us earnestly, "Be more careful about safety when you go to places like this in the future. Right now, I feel like a schoolboy caught doing something wrong by the teacher, sitting upright." I nod my head like a little chicken pecking at rice. After Yang Kexing left, Seongan turned to me and gossiped, "When did you meet such an exceptional man? When did you meet him?" As far as I remember, the first time I met him was during my sophomore year. That day, our two schools organized a friendly basketball game. That day, Shin Mengchi suddenly messaged me on WeChat, saying that Qin Shufan was playing at the neighboring school and she had already arrived, asking me to go with her to watch. At that time, my heart and eyes were filled with Qin Shufan, so naturally I wouldn't miss any event involving him. But as soon as I entered the police academy, I got completely disoriented. I couldn't even find the exit, let alone locate the basketball court. Just then, I saw a tall boy in a basketball uniform ahead of me. I rushed up to him without thinking to ask for directions. I remember the way Yang Kexing looked at me at that moment. It was almost as if ice was forming in his eyes. Later I found out he thought I was just like the other girls who approached him, making up some excuse to strike up a conversation. But fortunately, Yang Kexing was relatively kind to me. He said something about it being on his way, so he took me along. I followed him silently, arriving at the basketball court. As soon as we arrived, a commotion broke out in the spectator area. Yang Kexing's appearance naturally caught Shin Mengchi's attention. Since then, Shin Mengchi became obsessively infatuated with Yang Kexing. Her pursuit of people was quite dramatic. And the story of Shin Mengchi's warm face meeting a cold backside was well known in both schools. Therefore, every time Qin Shufan saw Yang Kexing, he had a bad expression. At that time, I only thought it was just brotherly concern for his sister. Looking back now, I was truly naive. After Shin Mengchi pursued Yang Kexing crazily for a year, he graduated. After he once again clearly rejected Shin Mengchi finally lost her patience and gave up on him. Shin Mengchi shifted from initial infatuation to becoming Yang Kexing's biggest detractor, always nagging about him in my ear, slandering him. Probably, it's the feeling that if you can't have something, you want to destroy it. After the urine test results came out, a female police officer came to inform us that we could leave first. When we reached the police station lobby, we saw that almost all the people from the bar were waiting there, one by one. They were waiting to be called in for interrogation and urine tests. It seems like only I and Seongan left first. Did I somehow take a back door? After leaving the police station, Seongan and I took separate taxis home. I've already stayed at her place for 2 days. If I don't go back soon, I don't know what kind of trouble my roommate might cause. I'm currently sharing a rental with a girl. At first, I chose this place because it's close to the company, and the girl seemed easy to get along with. So I quickly decided without much thought. After living together for a while, I realized that you really can't judge a person by their appearance. She never follows the agreed-upon schedule for cleaning the common areas or taking out the trash, just waiting until it's my turn the next day to nag me into cleaning. Also, she often eats the yogurt and fruits I keep in the kitchen fridge without asking me. She not only eats them but leaves nothing for me. Even worse, she didn't even discuss it with me and brought her boyfriend home directly. I often came home to find a half-naked man in boxer shorts walking around the living room without the slightest shame. And recently, for some reason, my door won't lock from the inside. Fortunately, there wasn't much valuable stuff in the room, so I didn't mind if they went in while I was away. But when I slept, I was always on edge. Recently, my lease on this apartment is about to expire, and I've been looking for a new place, but haven't found anything satisfactory after searching for a while. These past 2 days have been delayed by Qin Shufan's matter, so I haven't had time to look at houses. Today, it seems my roommate hasn't returned, the lights in the house aren't on, and it's unusually quiet. I finished my shower, and it was already close to 12 o'clock. But my roommate still hadn't made any sound of returning. I didn't want to deal with it either, so I just went back to my room to rest, since I had to start work tomorrow. Before bed, I still felt uneasy. So after thinking about it, I moved my desk to the doorway to block it. A few more days passed, and my roommate still hadn't returned. Probably went out for a trip. Recently, our TV station has been planning a new program, and we've been extremely busy. The heavy workload has made it impossible for me to find time to look at houses, and since my roommate hasn't returned for several days, I've gradually let my guard down. I'm mentally exhausted from work during the day. And at night I almost fall asleep as soon as my head hits the pillow. In a daze of sleep, I suddenly felt some noise beside me. I felt something gripping my waist and abdomen. When I opened my eyes and saw a big man beside me, I instinctively kicked him right off the bed, turning on the bedside lamp. I finally got a clear look at his face. Isn't that just my roommate's boyfriend? The table blocking the door was as good as non-existent to him, and he easily pushed it aside. The man, still not giving up even after being kicked off the bed, got up, stepped back onto the bed, and tried to come towards me again. "Baby, why did you kick me?" He approached, and only then did I notice a faint smell of alcohol on him. For a moment, I couldn't tell whether he was truly drunk or just pretending. As he was about to get close to me, I immediately grabbed the nearby brass lamp and slammed it down on his head. He winced in pain, clutching his head and curling up on the bed, wailing in agony. My hands trembled as I took out my phone and called the police. The loud noise also woke up my roommate, who was sleeping in the adjacent bedroom. She rushed over upon hearing the commotion, and upon seeing the scene, hurriedly went to check on her boyfriend's injuries. "Baby, what happened to you?" Her baby couldn't answer her because of the pain, so she turned to question me instead. "What the hell are you doing? He's just drunk. How could you hit him so hard? This is murder." "Just wait, I'm calling the police right now." I let out a silent chuckle inside. "No need to bother you. I've already called the police." Clearly, he was the one who barged into my room first. "So why are you saying I intentionally caused harm?" After the police officer finished stating the result, I couldn't hold back my anger and stood up to question him. "Miss Mo, please calm down. This is the police station." Looking at my roommate's smug expression, I couldn't help but feel furious. The roommate immediately changed his expression and cried to the police officer, "Uncle, no, officer, you must stand up for my boyfriend. He was just drunk, entered the wrong room, and didn't do anything. Yet he got hit by this woman like this. He's so innocent, uncle." So she does have connections. Which is why she was so confident when saying she'd call the police just now. I was so angry that I put my hands on my hips and paced back and forth around my seat. Is something wrong? A familiar voice suddenly sounded beside me. It was Yang Kexing. The police officer handling my case immediately stood up. "Captain Yang, what are you doing here?" Yang Kexing glanced at me unexpectedly, then looked at the roommate sitting there, and her boyfriend leaning against her shoulder pretending to rest. When he appeared, a thought suddenly popped into my mind. Should I give this guy a hug? But I'm not that close to him, so I probably can't. Right. Yang Kexing didn't greet me, but instead continued asking, "What's wrong?" The officer seemed extremely wary of Yang Kexing and immediately began to explain the situation seriously. "Old Wang, get the breathalyzer and test this gentleman. Let's see if he's really drunk. I think we should investigate further." As soon as Yang Kexing finished speaking, my roommate's boyfriend visibly stiffened, as if his cover had been exposed. After blowing into the breathalyzer, he slumped back onto the table, pretending to be drunk again. "His performance is quite comprehensive, sir. I don't think you need to pretend to be drunk anymore. Your blood alcohol level is less than 5 milligrams per 100 milliliters. At this level, you should be perfectly sober." Yang Kexing then turned to the officer, who looked troubled, and said, "Since this gentleman wasn't drunk, he deliberately entered Miss Mo's room while fully conscious. That should count as attempted rape, right? As for Miss Mo's actions, I believe they constitute self-defense." "Ah, yes, yes, yes." As Yang Kexing finished speaking, the officer immediately nodded and bowed obsequiously. At that moment, the man pretending to be drunk suddenly shot up from his seat. "What's the problem? She didn't even close the door properly. I just pushed the door open and walked in. How could I know it was the wrong room? What's wrong with that? Just pushed the door open and walked in." He must have put quite a bit of effort into pushing that desk, didn't he? Yang Kexing stared at him with piercing eyes, and eventually, the man wilted under his gaze. Finally, my roommate's boyfriend was directly detained and also fined to pay me a certain amount of compensation. As for that house, I don't want to go back and live there. I'll go stay with the Yin family for a few more days. Take a leave of absence for these days, and quickly settle the house matter. I was standing at the entrance of the police station, about to call Xiong-en, when suddenly Yang Kexing's voice came from behind. Do you have a place to stay? If not, you can stay at my place. Don't worry, I'm on duty today, so I won't be going home. Stay at his place. Maybe not. No need, I'll go to the Yin family later. Yang Kexing nodded, fell silent for a moment, then said, You've been looking for a place to rent lately, right? Recently, a friend of mine is going abroad and is renting out his apartment. You can go take a look. I thought for a moment. Yang Kexing seems like a pretty reliable person. It wouldn't hurt to go take a look. Anyway, I've been worrying about not finding a house I like. Sure, which neighborhood is it? UNG residential area. As he spoke, Yang Kexing took out his phone. Let's add each other on WeChat, so it's easier to stay in touch later. I didn't think much and took out my phone to scan his QR code. But that neighborhood, the rent must be pretty high, right? The property prices in that area were ridiculously high in my memory. It shouldn't be that high. Yang Kexing turned to look at me and said, What price range did you expect for the rent? Maybe 3,000 to 4,000. After I finished speaking, he didn't reply, just nodded. Not knowing what he was thinking, the next day, Yang Kexing contacted me, saying I could go see the apartment. I had just taken my leave, so I made an appointment with him to go there at noon. The apartment was on the top floor, 5th floor, and it was a studio-style room. It has 2 floors. The downstairs features a living room, kitchen, and bathroom, while the upstairs is the bedroom. As soon as you enter, you can see a large floor-to-ceiling window, providing excellent natural light. Moreover, upon arriving from outside, I noticed that the neighborhood's security and greenery are both excellent. It truly lives up to being a house in an affluent area. How much is the rent for this house? I already had an expectation in mind. This place must be at least 5,000 or more, 3,000. I feel like I'm hearing things. Could you be mistaken? How can this house possibly be 3,000? How about 2,000? No, your price is too low. I felt a bit uneasy inside. Yang Kexing seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. This is my friend's own house. He's leaving the country soon and is in a hurry to rent it out, so he doesn't care about the price. I was convinced by his words and nodded. All right, then 3,000 it is. At this price, I was actually making a profit by renting this house. After signing the contract, I plan to move in directly this afternoon. Yang Kexing suddenly asked, When are you moving in? Just in a bit. I'll call a cargo truck. I'll help you, he continued. I'll drive over later to help you with your luggage. I felt a bit embarrassed to trouble him. No, thank you. Don't you have work this afternoon? It's too much trouble for you. It's fine. I've already taken a half day off. If you think it's troublesome. Yang Kexing suddenly looked at me, paused for a moment. And I looked back at him, waiting for him to continue. Then you can treat me to a meal. Fine. After helping me move. I stood at the door watching Yang Kexing open the door to the apartment next to mine. Before entering, he turned back and said to me again, By the way, I live across from you, so feel free to contact me anytime if you have any issues. It seems he and his friend have a pretty good relationship. Buy a house. You have to buy the one opposite. At that time, I naively believed that Yang Kexing, such an upright and honest police officer, would never deceive me. Later, when I found out that both apartments belonged to him, I cursed Yang Kexing, that calculating man, 4 days and nights. So this guy had been plotting against me from the very beginning, planning for a long time. But that was after I started dating him. Now, in my mind, Yang Kexing still embodies the image of a tall, noble police officer. The TV station where I work is quite close to the Municipal Public Security Bureau. After moving in, I often happened to meet Yang Kexing downstairs when I went to work, and then he would by chance accompany me to the office. That day, he once again dropped me off at the building where my company is located. After saying goodbye to him and getting off the car, I saw a familiar face across the street. How could Qin Shufan be here? He seemed to have noticed me too, and angrily crossed the road straight toward me. Mo Yao, have you had enough fun yet, seeing him? I suddenly felt as if I had stepped into another world. If he hadn't suddenly appeared in front of me, I was almost completely about to forget this person. Was it because I hadn't been clinging to him lately, making him feel uncomfortable? I grew impatient. Qin Shufan, didn't I already tell you we broke up? Then it still needs my consent. Why do you get to decide to break up just like that? My cold tone must have angered Qin Shufan. As his voice suddenly turned sharp, I let out a sneer. Qin Shufan, you're acting like you're so deeply in love. What's wrong? Has Shenmengqi not been with you yet? Are you coming to me for comfort? Have you even considered whether I'm willing to deal with you, a piece of trash that no one else wants? You used to never act so unreasonable. You clearly know that Chichi and I aren't like that. As he spoke, Qin Shufan tried to come forward and pull me, but Yang Kexing immediately blocked him in front. Qin Shufan recognized the face of his former sworn enemy, and his expression darkened further. I said, why are you so decisive this time about breaking up with me? So you've already found someone else? I didn't want Yang Ku to get involved in my messy affairs, so I reached out and pulled him behind me. Stop using your filthy mind to speculate about others. Don't think I don't know what you're really thinking about your dear little sister. Don't come showing off in front of me. I turned back and told Yang Kexing to go home, then turned around and walked into the office building. In the end, only Qin Shufan was left standing alone, looking dejected. The morning's fast didn't occupy much of my thoughts. Once I started working, I completely forgot about it. Recently, our TV station has been planning a new program, a reality show about young professionals entering the workforce. After holding many meetings, we roughly decided on 2 industries. Lawyers and criminal investigators. It's really difficult to find a law firm or criminal investigation team willing to cooperate with the filming. After being rejected by several law firms in a row, the morale of our team members was almost completely drained. Miss Mo, you said we don't know any familiar lawyers or police officers. How are we supposed to start? A familiar police officer. I seem to have one, but I don't know if I can establish any connection. I comforted the intern beside me. Don't lose heart, I'll contact some I know first. After much deliberation, I finally decided to go for it. I took out my phone and sent a WeChat message to Yang Kexing, asking if he had time to have dinner together tonight. I thought he'd probably be busy at the moment and wouldn't reply so quickly. Unexpectedly, as soon as I put my phone down, the new message notification sounded. Yang Kexing, sure, I'll pick you up after work. Didn't I even book a restaurant yet? And he already agreed. After work, as soon as I stepped out of the office building, I saw Yang Kexing standing not far away. He waved at me. Why do I suddenly feel like a boyfriend waiting for his girlfriend to get off work? I've booked a restaurant nearby. It's more convenient. As soon as I reached him, I spoke up, whatever you want. As soon as we sat down at the restaurant, an awkward silence fell between us. I was hesitating about how to bring it up. And he, for some reason, didn't speak either. Officer Yang, our TV station recently launched a new program, and we wanted to ask if there's a possibility of collaborating with the Municipal Public Security Bureau. Yang Kexing's expression gave nothing away. He just kept staring at me. So, is this meal a thank you gift for the last move? Of course not. Then remember to make it up next time. I was puzzled, but still nodded. Yang Kexing seems to keep track of things quite clearly. Why don't you tell me about the format of your program? After I had clearly explained the format, content, and filming arrangements of our program, Yang Kexing nodded without much thought and said, I'll discuss it with our director first, and give you an answer tomorrow. I smiled at him in a flattering way. Then I'll thank you in advance, Officer Yang. Yang Kexing suddenly put down his wine glass and stared at me again. Why do you call me Officer Yang? Then what should I call you? Yang Kexing, Kexing, Iron. Or should I call you Senior? It seems that when Shenmengqi was pursuing him, she often called him Senior. I don't know if it was just my imagination, but after I finished speaking, Yang Kexing's originally unwavering gaze suddenly flickered with a moment of avoidance. I don't know. You can call me whatever you want, just don't call me Officer Yang. I let out a soft "oh" and didn't say anything more. After dinner, Yang Kexing suggested we walk back. He had had a little alcohol and couldn't drive. I thought it wasn't far from home, so I followed him. By now, the sun had long set, and the daytime heat had been dispersed by the cool evening breeze. On the path, there were a few couples out for a walk with their dogs, or parents taking their children for a stroll. Yang Ku and I, walking together, blended in among them, looking just like a young couple. Yang Kexing walked very slowly, and it didn't seem right to urge him on. So I had no choice but to walk slowly alongside him, in sync. Suddenly, a large dog charged straight toward me, its owner unable to restrain its enthusiasm and forced to run along with it. Just as it was about to pounce in front of me, Yang Kexing suddenly pulled me into his arms. One hand gently stroked the back of my head, the other supported my lower back, his movements extremely intimate. For a moment, my mind went blank. The dog owner beside me kept apologizing. "Sorry, did we scare you? Is your girlfriend okay?" Yang Kexing's voice sounded, and I could clearly feel the rise and fall of his chest as he spoke. "It's fine, just be careful next time." When they had walked far away, one person and one dog, Yang Kexing finally let go of me. Was he actually not explaining to others that we weren't a couple? Unexpectedly, this time I really did manage to latch onto Yang Kexing's leg. After hearing our introduction, the director seemed quite interested in this kind of activity. My colleagues' morale greatly improved upon hearing this news. We immediately continued to refine the planning proposal for the new program along the criminal investigation line. We also began confirming the criminal investigation interns participating in the program from various universities. After a month of preliminary preparations, our new program officially began filming. Every day during filming, I was watched by the police department regarding the progress of the shoot. So I could see Yang Kexing almost every day. For some reason, since that night, every time I saw him, my mood felt strange. In the past, when he stared at me, I could stare back. Now, whenever he looks at me, my heart inexplicably starts racing. The show had already started airing the first episode on online video platforms halfway through filming. Unexpectedly, people's reactions to us interns were far less intense than their response to Yang Kexing, who had only appeared on camera for a few seconds. He seemed to be gradually emerging as the new internet heartthrob. The comment section was filled with requests for him to appear more often. This also caused our program's viewership to skyrocket. I looked at the comments, then glanced up at Yang Kexing not far away, nodding silently in my heart. "It seems that netizens' eyes are quite good, Agent Yang. You could still make it as a celebrity if you switch careers," said the officer from the Criminal Investigation Unit, Feng Chenjie. He then turned to a female officer beside him, Chen Yu, and said, "Xiaoyu, your high and mighty flower seems to be turning into a public heartthrob. How's that feel?" Mixed emotions. Chen Yu picked up the empty water bottle in her hand and turned to tap Feng Chenjie on the head. "What nonsense are you talking about? If you can't speak properly, then don't say anything." Chen Yu turned her head and explained to Yang Kexing, "Captain Yang, don't listen to his nonsense." Judging from her flushed face and shy expression, the credibility of her words was extremely low. Even as an outsider who's only been working here for a month, I can clearly see Chen Yu's feelings toward Yang Kexing. "Miss Mo, is Officer Yang the type you like?" This wasn't being filmed, and the intern sitting next to me, Shu Hai, suddenly asked. His voice wasn't loud or soft, but it came just as the surrounding area fell into silence, making it stand out especially. I looked at the others. And suddenly Yang Kexing's attention shifted to me. I gave an awkward laugh. "Ha ha ha, everyone likes it. How could I possibly not like it?" Yang Kexing frowned, looking dissatisfied with my answer. The others around me didn't focus on me for long, quickly shifting their attention elsewhere. "Then would you associate with someone like him?" Shu Hai, who was standing beside me, continued pressing me relentlessly. I turned to look at him, his face filled with eager curiosity, and sighed. "Xiao Hai. This relationship has to be mutual. Both people have to like each other. It won't work if I like someone but they don't feel the same way, right?" Shu Hai curled his lip but didn't respond, but afterward, I thought carefully about what I had said. The more I thought about it, the stranger it seemed. Why does that sound so much like my one-sided infatuation with Yang Kexing? But it doesn't matter anyway, as long as the person involved didn't hear it. The higher-ups saw the recent feedback on the show and suddenly suggested we organize a basketball game between interns and detectives. They specifically requested that Yang Kexing must participate, to add more excitement to the program. Yang Kexing didn't seem very interested in such public appearances. Always expressed refusal. I was entrusted by my superior with an important task, to go and persuade Yang Kexing, although I wondered what merit I had to make him do something he didn't want to do. I still knocked on Yang Kexing's door under pressure from my superior. I ordered a family bucket. Do you want to come eat with me? I can't finish it all by myself. After saying that, I cursed myself in my mind. What kind of stupid excuse was that? He doesn't look like someone who'd eat fast food at all. Sure, yeah, so, what did you say? I had already prepared myself for him to refuse, but I didn't expect him to actually agree. I said okay, wait for me, I'll get a few bottles of wine. I have to admit, pairing a family meal with red wine was my first time trying it in my life. Our leader is also thinking about the ratings for our program. He's seen how popular you've become based on your appearance. So would you consider appearing on camera? I promise it's just for the basketball game episode. After that, even if the leader asks again, I'll directly refuse. If you really don't want to, it's fine to say no. I'll explain it to my leader later. As I spoke, Yang Kexing's gaze started fixating on me again. I really don't know why he likes staring at me so much. After a brief silence, he asked, so, is my face the kind you'd like? What does what he said have to do with what I said? I looked at him in confusion, not knowing what to say. He elegantly swirled the wine glass in his hand and continued, if you give me a satisfactory answer, I'll consider it. Your face to me is the kind that can only be admired from afar, not to be trifled with. Oh, so I'd have to become like your ex-boyfriend before you'd deign to play with me. What he said was just too strange. You're a different type from him. There's no need to compare you two. Even if you did, you'd still come out on top. For some reason, as soon as I finished speaking, Yang Kexing's face curved into a satisfied smile. Alright, then I'll go on camera. He paused for a moment, then added, but you owe me another meal. It seems this person is destined to miss the meal I invited him to. Of course, I won't say what's on my mind, but I just gave him a flattering smile. On the day of the basketball game, our two male interns were assigned to different teams. Yang Kexing and Shu Hai were on the same team. Feng Chunjie was with the other intern on the opposing team. The filming began before they entered the court, and some of us staff members were assigned to the audience seats to fill the crowd. I was assigned to the front row. Yang Kexing walked straight to me as soon as he entered. He was very domineering, directly shoving the towel and water bottle in my arms. Why does it feel like a declaration of ownership? Shu Hai followed behind him, seemingly wanting to hand me something in his hand, but Yang Kexing took it and casually placed it on the empty seat. The game began. Watching Yang Kexing sweat freely on the court, I suddenly recalled our first encounter during that basketball game. He seemed just as brilliant back then, but at that moment, my attention was entirely drawn to someone else, and I didn't pay much attention. Now, looking at him, I inexplicably felt a fluttering in my chest as the match progressed for a while. Some police officers behind me suddenly whispered to each other, why do I get the feeling that Team Yang's flashy style today is quite reminiscent of a peacock displaying its feathers? Yeah, I think so too, it's so flashy, and why do I keep feeling like he's looking this way? On the day the shoot ended, all the staff, including a few officers, went to a nearby Sichuan restaurant for a meal together. As we were eating, the conversation suddenly turned to personal lives. Captain Yang, I've never heard you mention anyone you've dated over the years. What kind of goddess do you like? Chen Yu, standing beside me, said excitedly, right, Captain Yang, you don't happen to dislike women and prefer men, do you? The people around us glanced at each other and burst into laughter. Yang Kexing suddenly raised his eyes and looked at me. I have someone I like, someone I've liked for a long time. The other colleagues, hearing this, began to heckle and pressed for details. But Yang Kexing didn't say more, and the others didn't continue asking. At some point, the focus of the conversation suddenly shifted to me. Xiao Mo, do you have a boyfriend? Have you considered meeting some of the high-quality single men from our police force? Many people from our team have privately asked for your contact information. I felt a hot gaze coming from ahead, but I didn't dare to meet his eyes. I awkwardly smiled at the person who asked, sorry. I don't have any plans to date for now. After dinner, since everyone had work the next day, we didn't continue with the second round. As we reached the restaurant entrance, intern Shu Hai suddenly said to me, "Miss Mo, let me take you back." Someone overheard and teased, "Oh, our little Hai seems quite persistent." Others seemed eager to join in the teasing, but their chatter was abruptly cut off by Yang Kexing's sudden voice. "No need, she's staying with me, I'll take her." There was a minute of silence around us, with ambiguous glances constantly flicking between me and Yang Kexing. His words were too easily misunderstood. I quickly interrupted the awkward silence. "Officer Yang and I live in the same neighborhood, but we don't live together, not together. I didn't hear you mention that before. Are there some secrets between the two of you that you're not telling?" Just as Yang Kexing and I were about to be overwhelmed by everyone's questions, someone suddenly called my name from the back of the restaurant. Everyone also stopped asking and looked back. I never expected to run into Shen Mengqi again. "I didn't expect it to be you. You really are something. After breaking up with my brother, you didn't even contact me. Don't you know in your heart how we broke up? We probably don't need to keep in touch, right?" Yang Kexing spoke up from beside her. "Mo Yao, let's go." When Shen Mengqi heard the voice and looked up to recognize Yang Kexing, she froze completely in place. I didn't want to bother with him anymore and left with Yang Kexing. On the way home, Shen Mengqi suddenly sent me a voice message. Without thinking much, I played it out loud. "Why are you hanging out with someone like Yang Kexing? Don't you know he's just a player who likes to string people along? You're so naive. Don't let him fool you. You can still get out of this clean while you still can." Yang Kexing, who was driving, turned to look at me after hearing this. I thought for a moment and said, "Ever since you rejected her before, she started saying all sorts of things to slander you. Don't take it to heart, she's just that kind of person." Yang Kexing immediately replied, "I admit I've kept her hanging, but I've always made it clear that I rejected her. As for being a scumbag, maybe she sees me that way, but I'm not interested in her, so there's no need for me to be nice to her. I don't care what she thinks of me, but I'm more concerned about what you think of me." I pretended not to understand. "What do you mean? How I look at you? You're really quite slow to catch on." The red light ahead, Yang Kexing stopped the car and turned to look at me. That gaze again, one I couldn't resist. "You haven't realized by now that I like you, have you? Being slow in school, how come you're still so slow at work?" Yang Kexing said this with a smile in his eyes. I felt that if I kept looking at him, I'd be bewitched by this fox, so I quickly turned my face away. "Of course, I'm not asking you to give me an answer right now. I just wanted to let you know in advance, so you don't end up not realizing it while I keep chasing you." I stared out the window the whole way, saying not a word. I felt like my brain had shut down. As soon as we arrived at the residential complex, I quickly got out of the car, rushed into the elevator, and escaped out of Yang Kexing's line of sight. Since his direct confession, I hadn't figured out how to face him. I never thought Yang Kexing would like me. I also never considered him as a boyfriend. But after spending time together recently, I can feel that I have feelings for him. These past few days, I've been avoiding Yang Kexing, for some reason. Not commuting with him anymore suddenly felt unfamiliar. Yang Kexing hasn't contacted me these past few days. I suddenly felt a bit annoyed for no reason. "Didn't you say you were pursuing me? Why haven't you made any moves at all?" Just after I finished my sigh, I saw Yang Kexing taking action as soon as I got off work. Yang Kexing stood under the camphor tree in front of the office building, waving at me. Before I could walk toward him, he came over first. "You don't still owe me several meals, do you?" The favor he once owed has now turned into his means. "Let's go, I've already booked the restaurant, you just need to pay." Fortunately, Yang Kexing didn't choose an expensive restaurant. He chose a Japanese izakaya-style restaurant. "How's your thinking going? Are you ready to give me a chance to pursue you?" Before we even had a chance to get comfortable in the restaurant, Yang Kexing asked, "Can you be any more direct?" I glared at him. "Oh, then I'll take a roundabout way. Have you missed me lately, since you haven't been commuting with me?" If someone else said that, I'd definitely find it cheesy, but coming from Yang Kexing, I suddenly felt my face getting a little hot. "You might as well stop beating around the bush." Yang Kexing lowered his head and let out a laugh. Fortunately, the topics he brought up afterward weren't too pressing. He simply chatted with me about everyday matters and work-related things. On the way home, it suddenly started to rain. As soon as I reached the entrance of the residential area, I saw a drenched chicken standing there. There was a rain shelter right next to it, but it chose not to go under it, insisting on standing in the rain. Was it trying to create a melancholy atmosphere? Still somewhat familiar. Isn't that my ex-boyfriend? Qin Shufan. Yang Kexing also recognized him. He turned off the engine and activated the hazard lights. Wait for me in the car. After saying that, he turned to the back seat, grabbed an umbrella, and got out of the car. I couldn't make out what they were saying. Qin Shufan suddenly became emotional and lunged toward Yang Kexing. Without thinking, I stepped out into the rain and ran to Yang Kexing's side. Yang Kexing, being a police officer, naturally dodged him with agile movements, leaving Qin Shufan to miss his target. Seeing me run down, Yang Kexing frowned and asked with concern, "Why did you come down? It's raining so heavily." I was afraid he'd attack. What if you got hurt? Yang Kexing gently stroked my head and smiled indulgently. "You silly girl, I'm a police officer." Qin Shufan steadied himself, then glared at me and snapped, "Are you really this fucking empty? How long have we been broken up? You're already living with him. If Chichi hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known until now. Are you with him just to make me angry?" I looked at Qin Shufan's comical face and burst out laughing. "Qin Shufan, you really have too high an opinion of yourself. We've already broken up, and you have no right to tell me who I can date. Don't show up in front of me again, or I'll sue you for harassment if it happens again." After saying that, I tugged at Yang Kexing's hand. "Let's go back." He let out a soft hum and then guided me back to the car. Suddenly, I recalled how, just moments ago, I had been so preoccupied with worrying about Yang Kexing that I had rushed out without thinking. If Qin Shufan hadn't suddenly appeared today, I wouldn't have realized that I had already fallen for Yang Kexing. "I'll make some ginger tea later. Come to my place and have some. Don't catch a cold." "Okay." I originally meant for Yang Kexing to go home, tidy up, and then come to my place, but I didn't expect him to just follow me straight into my house. Now that he's already in, I can't really send him back. I had no choice but to take a dry towel and wipe him off, sit in the living room and wait for me. I brought out the prepared ginger tea and handed it to Yang Kexing. Watching him drink it, Yang Kexing, with his hair soaked by the rain, had obedient, look like a well-groomed dog. I couldn't help but rub his damp hair. Unexpectedly, he immediately grabbed my hand. He lifted his head and stared straight at me. After a brief glance, he suddenly wrapped his arms around my waist and buried his head into my stomach. After a long while, he still didn't let go, so I had to push him away. "All right. Go to the bathroom and dry your hair, or you'll catch a cold." Our strength difference was too great. It was too hard for me to push him away. "If you don't let go, don't even think about being my boyfriend." As soon as I finished speaking, Yang Kexing me quickly stood up and looked down at me. "So you're saying you agree?" Then, I smiled at him, saying nothing. He didn't get angry. Instead he bent down and lightly kissed my lips like a dragonfly skimming water. "If you don't agree, I'll keep kissing you until you do. Then you can try." Yang Kexing leaned down and covered my lips. From the beginning, a gentle licking and caressing, it gradually escalated into something uncontrollable. In this passionate and intense kiss, I seemed to finally experience, for the first time, the feeling of being loved. Next, watch the following story. At the company's listing celebration banquet, I slapped the little secretary twice hard and filed for divorce with Liu Beichen. He sneered, shielding the secretary who was always by his side behind him, and mocked, "Song Yusheng, are you trying to force me to give in by threatening me with divorce? Are you really willing to give up the identity of Mrs. Liu? He broke his promise. He killed our child with his own hands. What is there for me to be reluctant about?" I smiled brightly. "Mr. Liu, tomorrow at 9 a.m., at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, whoever doesn't leave is a dog." Once again, after arguing with him because of Liu Beichen's secretary, I was violently shoved and hit my head on the corner of the table. Bright red blood mixed with strands of hair, staining half of my face, sticky and dizzy, but he had already slammed the door and left. He was going to save his little secretary. To get rid of me, he had just thrown me with all his strength. Filled with anger, I was knocked to the ground by the sharp horn, my forehead instantly engulfed in sharp pain. Liu Beichen's furious scream, filled with fire in his eyes, pierced my heart like cold, hard ice. He said, Song Yusheng, how could you be so cruel? Would you be satisfied if Xiaoke got hurt? She's scared now. I said I'd be back soon. What else do you want? Because of your boring suspicions, she has to face such danger. What will you be responsible for if something goes wrong? He said, Song Yusheng, you really disappoint me. Then he left me with a resolute back, not even glancing at me as I cried out in pain. The Liu Beichen of the past would never have treated me like this. Tears rolled down my face in large drops, and I, suppressing the pain, struggled to crawl to the bed and call 120. When he returned home, I was already sitting on the bed all night, my head wrapped in gauze. He approached cautiously, his body carrying the unfamiliar scent of shower gel. I held my breath, dodging his embrace and putting distance between us. Yusheng, I'm sorry. Jiku was frightened, so I accompanied her to report it to the police and just finished the statement. It's not easy for a girl to struggle alone out there. I didn't know I hurt you last night. He finished speaking in a trembling voice, his eyes gradually turning red. Liu Beichen's words were like a thin thread, wrapping around my heart and tightening. I struggled to breathe, asking the question I had been thinking about all night. If you knew I was hurt, would you stay? Liu Beichen fell silent. Last night, his little secretary cried out to him for help. This time, her reason was, Brother Beichen, I'm being followed. Just now, when I was taking a shower, someone seemed to have pulled the circuit breaker at home. I'm so scared. That delicate, helpless voice made my heart ache just hearing it. I arrived late, and he must have been heartbroken. So, on our wedding anniversary, he left me for another woman, a secretary who had been with the company for less than half a month, yet had a face strikingly similar to his deceased first love. If it weren't for that distress call, he would have panicked and forgotten to lock the drawer in the study. I had no idea that during the 7 years I was with him, he had been keeping another woman in his heart. It was a girl with a pure and sweet appearance. On the back of the photo was Liu Beichen's neat handwriting, reading my lifelong love. Under the ring box lay a death certificate, its ink blurred and faded by tears, visible deep affection. But 3 years ago, when he knelt on 3,000 steps of Buddha, proposing to me under the tree, he repeatedly declared that I was his true love. I handed him the medical report beside me, and as he took it, I suddenly clenched it tightly. Liu Beichen. Can you fire her? The next second, a voice of surprise erupted from his mouth. I'm going to be a dad. You, Yusheng, have given me a tremendous surprise. He ignored my question and responded with silence in another way. I looked at the joy in his eyes and brows, and spoke again. Do you remember what day it was yesterday? I was going to tell you last night. The guilt in his eyes deepened. Yusheng, I'm sorry. I've been feeling really unsettled lately. Can we stop arguing from now on? I'll make up for the anniversary. Who cares? I said to myself, but on my face, a smile rose. Okay, I want the most expensive gift as compensation. That night, I received the Eternal Series jewelry he sent me. He regarded the 30 million gift as an apology. His eyes, filled with deep affection, held only my shadow, and he said passionately that he would personally choose the compensation afterward, as long as I'm happy. A faint smile played in my eyes as I casually took a photo and posted it to my Moments. Liu Beichen's secretary commented, Mr. Liu is truly generous. I replied to her, he made me angry, so he spent 30 million to make me happy. The secretary deleted the comment instantly and disappeared in silence. I insisted on sleeping in separate rooms, citing that I hadn't fully gotten over my anger. In the past, I would gently tie his tie in the morning, and he would lean down to kiss me. While I shyly responded, recently, I've been waking up late, and he assumed it was due to pregnancy-related sleepiness. Yet, I've caught glimpses through the door crack several times, seeing him fumbling to tie his crooked tie. Yes, he could clearly tie his tie very well. By dinner time, he had served me soup, and his tie was neatly and properly hanging in front of him. I began to forget to remind him to drink less before social events, and the light at home was no longer on. Drunk from a social gathering, he returned home to a dark living room and a locked bedroom. No longer was there the usual warm soup to sober him up, nor the figure bustling around to attend to him. Only then did he realize that something was quietly slipping away from his life. He cornered me, anxiously demanding, Yusheng, do you no longer love me? facing my silence. He eagerly tried to kiss me, but I turned my head away to avoid it. Warm breath brushed against my neck, causing me to frown slightly. I instinctively shrank back, trying to distance myself. He stood frozen in place, unable to believe it, and approached again. But the disgust in my eyes stung his throat, leaving him choked. After a long while, he finally managed to speak, his voice trembling and barely audible. "Young Sheng, don't do this to me. Please, say you love me." In the past, Liu Beichen's greatest fear was the day when Song Yusheng would no longer love him. But now, I looked at him and pressed again. "Liu Beichen, can you fire her?" His pace of pleading stopped, his face flushed with anger as he coldly said, "Yusheng, don't be unreasonable. She has no one to rely on. I can't be so cruel to her." I calmly replied with a single word, "Okay," without the slightest hint of argument. Liu Beichen was completely flustered. That night, after finishing an important dinner gathering, his driver, Xiao Wang, helped him into the living room. I heard the sound of vomiting coming from the bathroom, and Liu Beichen stayed in there for a long time, longer than the usual time it took me to pat his back and help him rinse his mouth. He was waiting for me, but I was idly playing whack-a-mole. With the thumping sounds, I silently screamed in my heart, 80, 80, 80. A moment later, there was a knock on the door. I lazily got up, turned the lock, and opened the door. The bright light in the bedroom made Liu Beichen briefly close his eyes. He grabbed my wrist, his expression hurt. "Yusheng, you weren't asleep." Under the light, I studied him. His shirt was clean, and there were no lipstick marks on his collar. I gave a faint in response, then said, "You're hurting me." The grip on my wrist loosened, and Liu Beichen slumped against the doorframe. "Honey, I haven't had your 3 meals a day lately. My stomach problem has flared up again. I want to eat the food you made." Once, I felt sorry for him. From being completely inexperienced in cooking to diving headfirst into healthful ingredients, gradually improving his stomach so that he never fell ill again. The old scars from the burns on his hands have not faded yet. I rubbed my wrist and looked up. "I can't smell smoke right now." He took a step back, his tone pleading. "Plain noodles are fine too. But he hates plain noodle soup the most. It's really hard for him." "Sorry, I haven't been feeling well lately." After being rejected by me again, Liu Beichen's eyes gradually turned red, and he clutched his stomach, pleading in a low voice. "Then, can you make me a bowl of hangover soup, this time?" Even the trailing tone carried a hint of. I chuckled lightly and let go. "All right." Hope flared in his eyes, and his fingertips curled slightly with excitement. I sidestepped past him, then deliberately stepped back to align with him, grabbed his tie, and pinched a long, light brown hair strand, revealing the lipstick mark hidden beneath the tie. Liu Beichen's face instantly turned pale, so pale it lost all color, and his lips trembled slightly. "It's not what you think. Yusheng, let me explain. I was drunk and nearly fell. She just happened to catch me, and the lipstick and hair got on me by accident at that moment." The response was the door slamming shut right past his nose, locking with a click. He probably thought that if he wiped the lipstick off his lips, he could hide everything, but he didn't know that his little secretary had already posted something on her Moments, visible only to me. She even tagged me thoughtfully, as if afraid I might miss it. In the video, the drunken man lost his balance and tumbled onto the sofa with his young secretary. Jika's head happened to collide with the spot on his chest, leaving a faint orange lipstick mark. She lifted her bright, glistening eyes and gazed into his, saying, "Brother Beichen, I don't need a title or status, just being by your side is enough. I really like you." Liu Beichen stared at the face before him, entranced, murmuring a name, then responded with wild intensity. Until, abruptly, the phone rang, and driver Xiao Wang respectfully inquired, pulling Liu Beichen's consciousness back to reality. I calmly finished reading, turned off my phone, and pulled out a stash of accumulated snacks, shoving them roughly into my mouth until I felt sick. Liu Beichen kept knocking on the door, but I put on my headphones and continued consulting with my lawyer about the issues from the past few days. When I woke up the next day and opened the door, Liu Beichen collapsed straight into the room. He had slept all night leaning against the door, his chin covered in stubble, and his eyes bloodshot. I had already gotten ready, and as I passed him, He grabbed me tightly. When our eyes met, I saw deep unease in his gaze. I pushed his hand away. Liu Beichen, I need to go out for something. Let's talk about it when I get back. He suddenly stood up, excitedly saying, I'll take you. The key to the limited edition sports car dangled in front of his eyes. No need. I bought a car. Use your card. His face instantly darkened. I told you, don't you ever drive again. His voice was laced with fury as he stood in front of me, his clenched fists turning white at the knuckles. Once, we had a child, who died in the business rivalry between Liu Beichen and his rivals. That rainy night, the car had been tampered with. The moment the steel rod pierced through the glass, I threw myself over him, shielding the drunk man beneath me. That time, I lay in the ICU for a month, received 3 critical condition notices, and also lost the child we had longed for. Since then, whenever I travel, he never lets anyone else do it. He must personally pick me up and drop me off. I smiled, and tears welled up in my smile, falling onto Liu Beichen's hand, scalding his heart. Half a month ago, he took me to the hospital for a checkup, but at the moment he opened the car door, he received a phone call. In his panic, he handed me the car keys without a second thought, anxiously saying, Honey, go to the hospital by yourself. The girl I hit earlier has an infected wound. I need to check on her. He chose another car and drove away, leaving me standing there. From stunned silence to pain so intense it felt like I was suffocating. I wiped away my tears and got into the car, determined and angry, but still, due to the lingering trauma, I nearly caused a collision, blocked by an angry male driver in front of my car. He angrily pounded on the hood, cursing and shouting insults, crying and helpless. I wanted to call for help, but on the other end of the phone came a sweet female voice. Beichen brother personally went to book the scar removal surgery for me. I told him it wasn't necessary, but he wouldn't listen. He said girls all want to be beautiful, and if I kept the scar, I'd be the one crying. He just carried me all the way to the checkup and handed me the phone on the way. Sister, I really envy you for having such a thoughtful husband. I forgot how I hung up the phone. She said he held her all the way, but he wouldn't let any other woman get close to him except me. He also never allowed any other woman to touch his phone. I met his pale face again, saying, 2 weeks ago, you forgot Aunt Rong's Memorial Day, so I drove to the cemetery myself to pay my respects. That day happened to be the day Ji-Ku was discharged from the hospital, about a week ago. Liu Beichen gripped his hair tightly, letting out a pained scream. Please, stop talking. Please don't go out. I really can't bear to let you go. I obediently fell silent, another rebellious departure. He blocked me again, and I coldly said, Liu Beichen, if you want me to make an unwise decision, you can just stop me. I flew directly to Paris. My ticket was booked last night, and I didn't set a return date. Just before boarding, my phone received a message from Liu Beichen. Have you arrived, honey? What time are you coming back? After enjoying myself for a few days, I finally turned on my phone. Inside, it was all the same, endless explanations and anxious messages from Liu Beichen. I opened the only video, where Ji-Ku choked up, clarifying all the misunderstandings that had ever occurred. I was taken back by Liu Beichen. He used satellite positioning and arrived in Paris on the very day I turned my phone on. He said, I've prepared everything for our wedding anniversary. He said, Yusheng, I'll make you the envy of everyone, Mrs. Liu. I obediently left with him, but when he tried to forcefully take advantage of me, I violently turned his face away. He stood up, stunned, and explained again, Yusheng, believe me, there's nothing between me and Ji-Ku. I said nothing, just quietly watching him. He looked hurt, urging me to rest early, then left dejectedly. On the day of the banquet, Liu Beichen spent a fortune to bid on the eternal love, presenting it as a wedding anniversary gift to me, a necklace worth 90 million. Only a fool would refuse it out of spite. I accompanied him in greeting the guests, and the atmosphere was quite harmonious, if it weren't for his little secretary spoiling the mood. I think everyone believed that Liu Beichen was utterly infatuated with me. Ji-Ku committed suicide, and by the time Liu Beichen received the news, she had already been taken to the hospital. He pried my fingers from his sleeve and said coldly, Song Yusheng, now is not the time for you to be willful. That's a life. How can you be so selfish? He left in a hurry and didn't return home until late at night, exhausted. the bedroom was lit, and he gently pushed the door open, walking to my side where I lay asleep, my face streaked with tears. He carefully took the phone from my palm, then he stared at the content above, frowning deeply. Before committing suicide, Jiku asked me a question. Tell me, in Baichen's heart, who is more important, me or you? I didn't reply. Then came the image of Liu Beichen tenderly holding her in his arms, looking heartbroken, and the provocative words she sent. I see, you're not that special either. He's willing to spend money on you, but he's willing to give his heart to me. He left you in front of everyone and ran to comfort me. The look of regained treasure in his eyes when he saw me awake, something you'll never be able to understand. If I sold this photo to the media, do you think you'd become a laughingstock? Liu Beichen used some means to buy the photo from the paparazzi, preserving my last shred of dignity. Then sending someone to slap Jiku hard was already the limit. He still couldn't bring himself to fire her, even if I had to endure all the... He quickly drafted the contract and handed me a pen when I woke up in the morning. Yu Sheng, Ji is just a child's mischief. Don't take it seriously. I only see her as a sister. Once she calmed down, I immediately pushed her away. I've already made her give up her unwarranted thoughts. I love only you. He transferred 50% of the company's shares into my name, effectively handing over his lifeline to me. It was evident that his sincerity was genuine. I accepted the shares, yet remained indifferent. What he didn't know was that the tears were from my drops. The chat records were deliberately made for him to see. The rest depends entirely on his conscience. I accompanied him from scratch. Living in dark and damp basements, a bag of instant noodles, I saved most of it for him. Claiming I was on a diet, I stayed up late writing plans for him and accompanied him on his travels. I feel completely at ease with these shares. The company recently secured a major contract, and Liu Beichen has been extremely busy. He still manages to squeeze in time every day to care for me. It wasn't until the final stages, when the company successfully went public, that he finally had time to focus on soothing me. I also rejected all calls from Lian Jike. I gradually smiled at him, and he was so happy he couldn't find his bearings, lowering his head to look at the novel I held up in front of him. When he saw the scene of a wife aborting her 6-month-old fetus and mailing it to her husband's company after discovering her husband's betrayal, Liu Beichen's face turned pale as paper once again. He hired a nanny for me, who stayed by my side at all times, and had 2 children's rooms arranged, one for a boy and one for a girl. The inside was filled with cute baby photos and various toys. He kept brainwashing me, imagining how happy life would be after having a baby. Just as he was immersed in this fantasy, his mood reaching its peak, he suddenly received an anonymous package. Inside was my medical report showing irregular menstrual cycles. The date was the day before yesterday. The nanny hesitated, then finally showed him the blood-stained tissues from the bathroom. Only then did Liu Beichen realize that I had lied to him. After receiving my confirmation, he smashed everything in the room. Then he gripped my chin and asked in a deep voice, "You know how much I've been looking forward to our child. How could you bear to deceive me with a pregnancy, just to make Jiku leave? But I won't do as you wish." I smiled bitterly. Child, how much I wish I could too. That mountain of bitter herbal medicine, the nauseating folk remedies, and the endless acupuncture needles. I forced the moisture back from the corner of my eyes, watching him take out his phone to buy a villa for Jiku, after having the latest season's silk pajamas delivered to her from the boutique. He didn't return home all night. News of my divorce from Liu Beichen spread like wildfire, and photos of him and Jiku growing increasingly intimate frequently topped the trending topics. Devoted CEO finds new love. Mr. Liu buys a mountain villa for his secretary. Former wife, reduced to a discarded woman. At the celebration banquet for the company's IPO, Liu Beichen sent his driver to pick me up for the event. In the flickering lights, Jiku wore a high-end designer outfit, with exquisite makeup and expensive jewelry around her neck, exuding an air of elegance and luxury. She affectionately linked arms with Liu Beichen as they exchanged pleasantries with others, while Liu Beichen's palm naturally caressed Jiku's waist. When she saw me, the surrounding noise suddenly fell silent. Someone familiar stepped in to ease the tension. "Mrs. Liu, you've gotten even more beautiful since we last met." I nodded with a smile and replied, "I can't bear the title of Mrs. Liu. I'm here to discuss a divorce with Mr. Liu." Everything around us grew even quieter. I walked up to Jiku and slapped her face twice hard. Liu Beichen shielded Jiku behind him and sneered. "Song Yusheng, you actually threatened me with divorce just to force me to give in. Are you really willing to give up the title of Mrs. Liu? Playing hard to get should also have its limits. Retracting now still has a way to end it." I handed him a divorce agreement, with my signature already on it. Liu Beichen crumpled the paper in his hand, staring at me without blinking. "Yusheng, we can handle this privately." I waved the bag in my hand toward him, smiling brightly. "Mr. Liu. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, whoever doesn't leave is a dog." That report about my menstrual irregularity was sent to Jiku. How could I possibly go back on my word? That night, I topped the trending topics. Mrs. Liu publicly filed for divorce, leaving Mr. Liu utterly humiliated. Jiku's third sister. Mrs. Liu's fake pregnancy deception is shameful. Mr. Liu is heartbroken. Liu Beichen clarified on the company's official Weibo that he only started dating Jiku after confirming our relationship had broken down, and after our divorce, he will give Jiku the proper status she deserves. I read the statement over and over again, but didn't feel the expected pain. It turns out that after no longer loving someone, it can be this. When he repeatedly hurt me for another woman, I forced myself to slowly let go of my feelings for him, preparing to leave completely. The next day, at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Liu Beichen rubbed his brow as if he hadn't slept all night. "Yusheng, you were the one who deceived me first. As long as you're willing to yield, the position of Mrs. Liu will always be yours. You have no relatives left except for me. The only one you can rely on is me," I sneered. Brushing the strands of hair from my cheek behind my ear, "Mr. Liu, isn't it good enough to be a human? Why must you be a dog?" After leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, I ignored the eyes following me from behind and headed straight to an upscale restaurant, ordering the most expensive set meal to celebrate being single. In the evening, after taking a bath, the online outrage targeting me had reached its peak. Before boarding the flight to Country M, I pulled my suitcase and posted the chat screenshots and videos online. The knives stabbed at me will eventually turn back on their perpetrators. Those glaring and incriminating pieces of evidence instantly stirred up waves online. The trending topics filled with insults toward Jiku continued to emerge. And Liu Beichen could not escape condemnation either. "Look, this is the internet. Just a moment ago, people were cursing me without knowing the truth. Now, they've turned into righteous messengers, standing up for me." At the mountain villa, Liu Beichen tossed the flash delivery aside, a small box and a file bag. But he had no time to care. The cheating cat was finally about to savor the cheese right at its mouth. Jiku gently untied his tie, whispering softly, "Brother Beichen," late at night, sticky with sweat. Liu Beichen got up and, the moment his feet touched the floor, kicked the flash delivery. He bent down to pick it up and walked into the bathroom. He thought that as long as he vented his anger through other means, he could feel happiness, but it backfired. Now, he was so restless inside that he wanted to destroy everything. For Jiku, he had been obsessively infatuated for so long, and in the ambiguous tension between them, he was almost driven mad. But now that I have it, the once intense desire has dropped to freezing point, leaving only endless emptiness. After just venting his emotions with Jiku, he was overwhelmed with the fear of Song Yusheng leaving him. He mechanically tore open the delivery and pulled out the papers inside. The next second, he frantically yanked open the bathroom door, stumbled downstairs, opened the car door, and slammed the accelerator to the floor. The car sped down the highway. His Yusheng. He had to see her immediately. Liu Beichen drove to the villa where I lived. It was empty inside. All the furniture we had chosen together was gone, and every trace of my presence had been erased. He kept searching desperately, his heart feeling hollow, wanting to call me, only to realize his phone had already shut down due to low battery. He returned to his car and connected the charger. As soon as it turned on, a call came in. It was the company's public relations manager. "Mr. Liu, the video of you and Miss Jiku is trending and can't be suppressed. Someone was manipulating behind the scenes. regardless of the cost. Liu Beichen opened WeChat and, upon seeing the frozen video frame, his pupils suddenly widened in shock. It was that night, when Jiku cried, saying she had been followed. When he rushed over anxiously, the apartment was brightly lit, and Jiku threw herself into his arms, her cool clothes captivating. Looking at him with a pitiful expression, confessing her love, dazed, he lowered his head to kiss her, but finally stopped himself with reason. He wiped away Jiku's tears and comforted her. "You're very much like my first love. I can't bear to put you in an awkward position. Besides, Yusheng has suffered a lot with me." But in the end, he still allowed her to win his favor in another way, a game that Yusheng refused to try, no matter how he coaxed her. At that time, he thought, what Yusheng was unwilling to do for him, Jiku would gladly do for love. The swelling of his male chauvinism made that first experience all the more pleasurable, so that later, in the empty office, a few times, he stood in a high position, looking down at Jiku, allowing her to recklessly explore, even sink into it. At the edge of her limits, the voice in his ear woke him up. He hastily exited the video, turning off the heavy breathing captured in it. His hand reached into the pocket of his bathrobe, where he kept Yusheng's miscarriage report, spontaneous abortion, the timing perfectly matching that night. He read through each message sent by the PR manager. They were all provocations from Jiku toward Yusheng. From the 6th day after he hit Jiku, every sentence was like a knife, slowly slicing through his flesh, until he saw one of them, his eyes bloodshot. He punched through the windshield, shards of glass embedding into his flesh, blood trickling down. On the night of Yusheng's miscarriage, Jiku took advantage of him washing up to send the video to Yusheng. The overwhelming panic engulfed him, and a sharp, tearing pain shot through his heart. He had killed, with his own hands, the flesh and blood he had longed for day and night. He felt as though he was dying from the pain. He had seen with his own eyes how much hardship Yusheng endured to carry his child. He slammed the steering wheel hard, letting blood flow freely, his flesh torn and mangled. As if only this could soothe the overwhelming pain within his heart. How foolish he was, playing such a game of a substitute for a beloved. He must find Yusheng, and no matter what, he would seek her forgiveness, even if it meant using any means necessary. He would keep her by his side. When he returned to the mountain villa, his expression was as calm as water. He carefully examined Jiku, who was sleeping, drawing a sharp-edged glass from her palm. It sliced from the left side of her forehead down to the right corner of her mouth. Yes, facing this face, he ultimately couldn't bring himself to do it. He felt like he was going crazy from the torment. Finally, he pulled out his phone and sent a message to someone he knew well, who can provide information about Yusheng. "I'm willing to offer anything in exchange." Suddenly, he thought of something and quickly walked to the corner, his hands trembling uncontrollably from panic. He slowly crouched down and opened the cardboard box. When he saw what was inside, his eyes, which had just regained calm, turned red and glaring again. Jiku was awakened by Liu Beichen's roar. In the next second, a strong hand grabbed her hair and threw her out of the villa. No matter how she pounded and asked, she only received a furious "get out." She stared coldly at the closed door, a mocking smile curling at the corner of her lips as she sneered, "Liu Beichen, you want to get rid of me? Dream on." At the exit of the airport in M Country, a group of bodyguards stood behind another group, respectfully taking the suitcase from my hand. They forcibly escorted me away. A handsome man with a bright and refined face leaned against the body of a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Gentlemanly opening the passenger side door, the car drove toward Broadway in Manhattan, extending to a street by the East River, the dazzling Wall Street. Inside the car, Shi Yanji gradually approached, casting a shadow over me. The partition was lowered at the right moment, and he fiercely kissed my lips, one hand tightly restraining my resistance. Liu Beichen's first love is deceased, while my first love is still alive. Watching me intently, the car stopped in front of the hotel. By then, my clothes were disheveled, and my hands were tightly bound by Shi Yanji. The suit jacket enveloped me, and he bent down to carry me out of the car, leaning close to my ear with a mischievous grin. "Baby, you can scream for help and let everyone come watch." Thinking about it is already exciting. I was furious and shouted, "You old hag, you're a despicable, vile, shameless dog. Shiyenji's dominance has always been unmatched, especially when it comes to me. The elevator ascended straight up, and when the doors opened, my lips were slightly swollen. Shiyenji had been bitten on the corner of his mouth, the top-floor presidential suite. He pinned my hands above my head, pressing me firmly against the wall. Asheng. This time you're the one who provoked me, I said. As long as you set foot in America, I will never let go again. There was a knocking sound at the door. He grabbed a water cup and slammed it against the door. Immediately, a mechanical and respectful voice sounded from outside. Young master. The old man asked me to convey a message. You son of a bitch. Bring back Miss Song intact. If I have to clean up your mess one more time, I'll plug your eyes shut. Then came the sound of a cup shattering on the ground. This retelling was no ordinary scene recreation. A few minutes later, Shiyenji finally took out the interest and led me out of the room. My biological mother rushed forward and slapped me hard, one slap on the left, one on the right. Finally, Shiyenji's face was symmetrical. My heart instantly felt much better. A beautiful woman with a face resembling mine had tears welling up in her eyes. Xiaosheng, Mom and Dad really know they were wrong. At the age of 14, my mother, who had always beaten and scolded me, was dying. She confessed, cursed herself, and had someone secretly deliver a letter to the Song family. This former servant of the Song family only wishes to see her own biological daughter once. At that time, the fake daughter also had a terminal illness and would not live more than 2 years. Finally, the mother and daughter met. Under the pretext of an old acquaintance, Song's mother saw my bruises and held me. Crying bitterly, Song's father also clenched his fists, making a cracking sound. In the end, they left behind Aunt Rong, her eyes filled with guilt. Xiaosheng, Yinyan only has a little over a year left. She can't bear any more shocks. We will make it up to you properly in the future. There was no prior notice or discussion, just a casual announcement at the time of departure. After hearing that, I suppressed my longing for family affection and replied calmly, Uncle Song, Aunt Jing, take care. Then, looking at Song's father, he carried Song Yin on his back like a kind father, while Song's mother gently smoothed her hair and draped a coat over her, then said to me, Xiaosheng, listen well to what Mama Rong says. Later, after their daughter passed away, they wanted to reconcile with me, but I firmly refused. Even if they just appear, I will respond with silent hunger strikes. Over the years, they carefully walked the edge, channeling all the compensation for my rejection into Liu Beichen's company. The email inbox was piled high with their heartfelt confessions and deeply sorrowful messages of longing. I finally let go of my resentment and agreed to the reunion trip to America. But my plans were thwarted by the upheaval in my marriage. Mom. The stiff and awkward address made my mother's tears burst forth like a broken dam. It also rooted my life, which had drifted like a drifting weed since birth. She hugged me again, sobbing bitterly, murmuring all sorts of repentance. When he reached the downstairs, Song's father paced back and forth nervously. It wasn't until the voice called out, Dad, that he responded with joy. Hey, hey, hey. His face, previously clouded with worry, finally brightened. Tears streaming down his face, he stepped forward, his hands fumbling, unsure where to place them. My good girl, you've been through so much. Come home, Daddy will cook for you himself. Make something delicious for my sweet daughter. He smiled as he escorted my mother and me into the car, then turned back to Shiyenji, who was leaning against the car door. A punch landed, leaving Shiyenji with a black eye. You little brat, if you ever bully my girl again, I'll break your legs myself. Shiyenji grinned. Uncle, for the rest of my life, Asheng can only be my wife. Shiyenji. The farce ended with my words, Dad, I'm hungry. For months later, during my return trip home, I was followed by an inescapable tale. Shiyenji was chased away by bodyguards several times within 3 months. He was beaten up 3 times at night while climbing over the wall, 8 proposals at my doorstep, once every 10 days. The one missing was when he cornered me in the fitting room at Saks Fifth Avenue, attempting to take advantage, and was beaten by his father so badly he couldn't get out of bed. Uncle Sha led us into a room with a look of deep regret. After we came out of the room, my parents, with a hint of sorrow, silently allowed Shiyenji's antics. After returning home, Liu Beichen was frantically searching for me. I immediately concealed my itinerary. Until that banquet, I took the chance to go to the restroom to touch up my makeup, only to be cornered by Shi Yanji in the hallway, who kissed me recklessly. Footsteps rushed from behind, and a heavy punch sent blood trickling from Shi Yanji's mouth. It was Liu Beichen, whom she hadn't seen for 4 months, at this moment. He no longer had the usual vigor and confidence. Decay overwhelmed him, leaving only an emaciation he could no longer resist. He grabbed my sleeve, begging humbly, "Yusheng, will you come back to me?" I pried open his fingers, my tone laced with sarcasm. "Mr. Liu, a qualified ex should be as good as dead. What's wrong? Can't the excitement brought by your little secretary satisfy you anymore?" His face turned pale once again, regret flashing in his eyes. "Yusheng, I was wrong. Please don't leave me, you love me so much. Can you give me one more chance? I have already fired Jiku and cut all ties with her. I finally found you, and this time I won't let go easily. How could I let him not find me? That was information he bought from my secretary for 5% of the shares." Facing him, overwhelmed with regret and remorse, I relented once more. "Fine, I'll give you one more chance." My wrist was yanked forcefully, and Shi Yangji's temple veins bulged as he gritted his teeth, threatening, "Sheng, if you dare to reclaim trash, you'll pay the price tonight. At worst, I'd rather be beaten to death by the old man than allow you to get back together with him." I ignored the raging Shi Yangji. Instead, I met Liu Beichen's anxious and hopeful gaze. "Liu Beichen, do you dare to swear that you and Jiku have truly broken off completely?" Liu Beichen was momentarily stunned, then extended 3 fingers. "I swear to heaven, if I'm lying to you, may I die a miserable death." I smiled lightly and nodded. "Good, I believe your oath. Just 43 Sakura Road, yesterday. It seemed like you just went to see her." "Liu Beichen, it seems I should wish you an early death and early liberation ahead of time. Remember to let me know when it's time to give the gift." A flicker of panic flashed in Liu Beichen's eyes as he strode forward. "Yusheng, let me explain." Shi Yanji pushed me behind him, his expression cold as he stared at Liu Beichen. "She's my girlfriend now. You and your dog are forbidden from approaching her in the future." I pulled Shi Yanji, who was beating Liu Beichen, away. I left behind Liu Beichen's screams and his desperate excuses. Liu Beichen really looked like a madman now. I didn't expect him to follow me to the hotel and knock on the door at 2 in the morning. I opened the door irritably, my tone cold. "Liu Beichen, if you're sick, go take medicine. What are you doing making a scene in the middle of the night?" His knocking stopped. Upon seeing the faint red mark on my collar, he radiated an aura of destruction. "Did you sleep with him?" He clenched his fists, suppressing his anger. I let out a light laugh. "What, do I need to report my affairs to you, my ex-husband?" He seemed unable to bear the blow, his body swaying slightly, then he punched the wall beside him, a harsh sound escaping through his clenched teeth. "Yusheng, let's call it even. Okay, there was only one time between me and Jiku after our divorce, you and him. I can convince myself not to care," I reminded him. "Liu Beichen, it's me who doesn't want you. I don't love you anymore. What do you have to compare with him? I might get engaged to him, and then marry him. While you will forever be the murderer of my child and the accomplice who covered for the mastermind." I turned to close the door, but heard a thud behind me, the lofty CEO of the Liu Group, kneeling on both knees, humbly pleading, "I really know I was wrong. We'll have children again in the future. Yusheng, losing you will drive me mad. I can be your lover, as long as you don't leave me, even if we remain nameless and loveless for a lifetime. I'm willing." He broke his pride for me, just to get me to turn back once. Unfortunately, it's too late. I suddenly turned around, grabbed him from the ground, and with all my strength, slapped his face with my slender palm. Only when I was exhausted and breathing heavily did the anger in my chest finally subside. I pulled out a photo from the album and held it in front of him, who was at my mercy to beat and scold. In the photo, Jiku's face was filled with a happy smile as she nestled in Liu Beichen's arms. Liu Beichen gently stroked Jiku's slightly swollen abdomen with a tender expression. "He personally killed our child, yet allowed the one responsible to carry his flesh and blood. Now he wants to be my lover. How ironic. Liu Beichen, you really make me feel sick. Be my lover. What about your little secretary? And what about the child in her belly?" I played a voice recording, Beichen, Lu Nianwen, and Lu Shichen. Those names sound so nice. If only it were twins, a boy and a girl. Then I could have used the names I worked so hard to choose. The familiar male voice replied, "This is already wonderful. One is enough for me. Thank you for bringing it into this world." I wiped the tears from my face, my eyes filled with hatred. Lu Beichen, I once carried 2 lives, but I lost both because of you. The names you spent so much effort choosing for them, you gave them away so easily. Get lost and never show your face in front of me again. Lu Beichen pressed hard against the door I was trying to close, screaming in agony, "Yu Sheng, I haven't touched Ji Ku again. Only that one time after our divorce. I didn't expect her to get pregnant on the first try. The child is innocent. You've been a mother yourself. Can't you be more generous? She is just my child's mother now. After giving birth, she will leave forever, losing our child. My heart aches as if I'm dying. I just regard this new life as a continuation of the lives of those 2 children." Lu Beichen's words pierced my heart like a cold, hard steel needle. The cold wind howled in, making my eyes sore and hard to blink. Magnanimity, the continuation of life. The door across the hall was suddenly yanked open. Shi Yang charged forward and punched Lu Beichen, knocking him to the ground. He looked at me with concern. While I stared blankly ahead, a buzzing voice echoed in my ears. Generosity. The continuation of life. He gently grasped my wrist, his voice tender as he guided me. "Asheng, wake up. I know you can do it. You still have loving family around you, and you still have me. The things you lose will one day return to you in another form." The voice that had appeared countless times in my mind, like a thin thread, gradually pulled my consciousness back. My vision gradually cleared. I looked at Lu Beichen, who was both confused and worried. "Are you leaving or not?" He took a step forward. "Yu Sheng, I won't leave. Why won't you give me another chance? Fmh, you're not leaving, are you?" To kill with words, anyone can do that. I stood on my toes and kissed Shi Yanji's lips, pulling him back into the room. The door was closed again, and this time, faint sounds came from inside. It gradually subsided only by dawn. I did as he wished, surrendering myself to Shi Yanji. Lu Beichen's eyes were bloodshot, having not slept all night. He had told himself he could remain indifferent, but in the end, he broke down, kicking the door in frustration, only to flee in despair from the harsh sounds coming from inside. Only then did he realize how much pain Yu Sheng had once endured. He deserved to die. Even 1,000 cuts wouldn't be enough. In the room, empty wine bottles were scattered all over the floor, and the doorbell rang repeatedly. Lu Beichen propped himself up and opened the door listlessly. 2 packages. Both addressed to Song Yusheng. A flicker of hope ignited in his heart, and he eagerly tore open the one marked with number 1. A few minutes later, papers and photos were scattered all over the floor. Muji was the name of his first love. The records showed that when he was broke, his pure and innocent girlfriend had already secretly attached herself to a rich second-generation man behind his back. She became pregnant, was forced to have an abortion, and was ultimately abandoned after cheating on him, yet still desperately tried to cling to him and beg for reconciliation. But Muji lied to him, lying to him and his family that they wouldn't allow her to be with a poor guy like him. To show his sincerity, she asked him to find a way to gather the bride price. He sold the house left by his parents and handed over 300,000 yuan to Muji, but Muji used the money to book a plastic surgery. Hoping to win back the rich second-generation man by becoming more beautiful, Muji died the day before the surgery. After seeing the rich second-generation man she once vowed to love forever, intimately close with his new lover, she jumped into the river, heartbroken. On her deathbed, she left a final message. "My parents still won't allow us to be together, but I only wanted to be your bride, Aiken. See you in the next life." One sentence revealed the cause of her death. It also made him, over the years, feel like a fool, emotionally devastated and consumed by guilt. And even until her death, Muji was still covering for that man. He trembled as he opened another delivery package. After a moment, he crumpled the papers inside into a ball and then picked up the torn pieces. Ji Ku was Muji's cousin. From the very beginning, their meeting had been a carefully designed deception. To get close to him, she abandoned her boyfriend who had supported her through college. After being kicked out of the hilltop villa by him, She was seen entering hotels with her ex-boyfriend. He grabbed an empty wine bottle from the floor and smashed it violently against the wall until the room was in complete disarray. For such a woman, he lost his beloved and killed his own flesh and blood. He slapped himself hard, the overwhelming pain making him slam his head against the wall. I glanced at the delivery confirmation text message. These 2 documents had already been discovered after my miscarriage. Originally, it was the lawyer who asked me to gather as much evidence as possible of his infidelity. Unexpectedly, investigating Ji-Ku led to uncovering this big fish. So, I changed my mind. Rather than leaving empty-handed, I'd rather let Liu Beichen enjoy happiness only to have it plunge into hell. It would be much more satisfying. Shi Yanji wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, pulling me into his embrace. Asheng. I've told my dad, let's set a date to discuss our marriage with your parents. About last night, you have to testify for me, that you were the one who seduced me first. I turned around, suppressing a smile, burying my face into his chest, feeling the constant warmth radiating from him, and softly replied, all right. Whatever you say. Shi Yanji acquired a domestic company and insisted I become his chief executive assistant. He acquired the company just to cause trouble and annoy Liu Beichen. I didn't bother getting involved, but I warned him that I'm a major shareholder of Senran Group, telling him not to go too far. During a later visit to the company, I noticed a strange cleaner. She wore a large mask every day and always avoided eye contact when looking at me. He would also quietly mop the floor behind me while I was in the bathroom. This time, I deliberately slowed down and accidentally stepped on her foot. She let out a pained cry, her voice hoarse and unpleasant. I looked into her familiar eyes and yanked off her mask. It was an ordinary face, with a long scar running from the corner of the mouth to the ear. I kept apologizing, feeling deeply guilty for the misunderstanding. After finding out, Shi Yanji proactively increased her salary and comforted me, telling me not to feel too guilty. Recently, he has been competing with Liu Beichen for a project, which is very important to Liu Beichen. But on the day of the bidding, Liu Beichen's proposal, similar to Shi Yanji's, turned out to be superior. The incident took a turn in the evening, when the company suffered a theft, and the perpetrator was the janitor. The video of the cleaner meeting with the project manager from Liu Beichen's company went viral online. After Shi Yang reported the incident, the cleaner fled to avoid punishment. Liu Beichen's company stock was affected and plummeted. My parents had already stopped helping Liu Beichen's company long before my divorce. Currently, his company's funding chain is facing a breakdown. Worse still, another major news story emerged in Haicheng. The Song family, residing overseas, is planning to relocate part of their industries back to the country. The only statement issued is a refusal to cooperate with the Liu family. The police were still searching everywhere for the missing cleaner, until that night when I was returning home alone. A man suddenly lunged at me, holding a gleaming dagger. Liu Beichen rushed out and stood in front of me, the dagger piercing his abdomen, blood spreading across the ground. The murderer was subdued by the police lying in ambush, and the unconscious Liu Beichen was taken to the hospital. I went to see the murderer, or rather, the cleaner named Ji-Ku. She cursed wildly, screaming in agony, "I hate you. I was so close. I was almost successful. Liu Beichen still thinks about you, and even froze the disgusting things you sent him in the freezer. After he slept with me, he kicked me out of the villa, so I'll keep him by pretending to be pregnant. When I went to find him with my belly swollen, you don't know how happy he was. But in the end, it was because of you. As soon as you came back, he changed completely. He personally escorted me to the hospital, and when I regained consciousness, my appearance had changed. The child was gone, and I was driven out of the apartment. Isn't he the one who loves his cousin the most? I already resembled my cousin by 7 parts, and I spent money to make myself exactly like her for him. Why did he make me look like this mess?" I chuckled lightly. "Want to know why he treats you like this?" Ji-Ku's eyes stared at me like a vulture, unblinking. I leaned back lazily in my chair and looked back at her. "It was me who sent him some information, letting him know you're Muji's cousin, letting him know about your plastic surgery, and about your cousin's betrayal. Your ex-boyfriend sent me a picture of you like this early this morning in exchange for some money. He said, "Consider it compensation for all these years of sincere efforts going to waste. Shiyang and I were just playing a role with you." Jiku was completely crazy. Finally, she was sentenced to prison for theft and intentional injury, and I sold the shares of Liu Beichen's company to one of his strong competitors. It was a big surprise for him upon his release from the hospital. My wedding with Shi Yanji was held in a picturesque town church. Father handed me over to Shi Yanji, his eyes moist with various warnings and threats. Mother shed tears in the audience. Finally, we were all amused by Shi Yanji's wedding vows. His wedding vow was, "I'll try my best to have 2 in a year. Every day, I must wash my wife's feet, massage her back, and attend to her in bed." The old man, tears streaming down his face, nodded slowly. How could I have given birth to such an unshamed creature? Go back and prepare the washboard for Yusheng. After marriage, I inherited my parents' company, busy every day, and had to endure Shi Yanji's relentless advances. I never expected the prophecy to come true. When I saw the 2 little lives on the test report, I locked myself in the room, crying uncontrollably. Back then, in this very room, I had broken down, half mad and half insane, from losing them. Now that they've returned to my side, it's a blessing from heaven, and the best gift Shi Yanji has ever given me. The door was knocked on, and Shi Yanji walked in, pulling me into his arms. "Asheng, I told you, the things you've lost will one day return to you in another way, you see. Now both you and I have fulfilled our fates." Shi Yang had an old notebook. At the time we broke up, the note read, "In the darkest moment of my life, I lost my life, and when we reunited, another line was added, grateful to heaven for its mercy, it returned her to my side once more. Delayed time." Epilogue. The first time I heard of Song Yusheng, it was when Uncle Song, drunk and crying, told my father that his own daughter would rather starve to death than acknowledge him. I picked up the photo that had slipped to the ground, stunned by the beauty of the girl in the picture. After Uncle Song sobered up, he searched everywhere, but I had already hidden the photo under my pillow. Our 2 families had already been betrothed, and I once caused chaos at home by wanting to break off the engagement. It wasn't until Song Yin fell ill that both sides fell into a tacit silence, and as for Song Yusheng, it's not shameful to hide a photo of my own wife. I successfully forced my dad to send me back to a high school in China. The hunger strike tactic really worked. My dad said that Song Yusheng and I were made for each other. Starve myself, drive my father crazy. I thought what he said made perfect sense, so when I met her in the crowd, I launched a fierce pursuit. She ignored my flowers, breakfasts, seat reservations, and expensive gifts. Instead, it was because I burned my hands making her a meal that my frozen heart finally cracked a little. Later, a female bully became jealous of her popularity among boys and spread lewd rumors about her, and said she was an illegitimate daughter, born from an affair, a shadowy bastard. I kicked the rumor monger and broke his ribs, and Song Yusheng, enraged by the word shadowy, tore off a crescent-shaped chunk of the female bully's hair. I touched my numb scalp and felt that we were even more compatible. That time, the shared warnings, standing punishments, and self-reflections directly brought our relationship closer. For her, I skipped classes to capture the most beautiful stars and the morning beauty of the sunrise atop the mountain. For her, I changed my bad habits and worked hard to catch up on my studies. Finally, on her birthday, I folded 314 paper cranes for her, each one with my own handwriting. "Song Yusheng, I love you." After gathering 314 students, each of them unfolded a paper crane, surrounding her in the center and shouting loudly, "Song Yusheng, he loves you." That time, she smiled gently and said, "Shi Yangji, on the day of our high school graduation, I will accept your confession." I was so happy I felt like a madman, wishing I could open my eyes, and it was already graduation day. Since then, not even a single opposite-sex creature has appeared by Song Yusheng's side. It was me, who drove them away. I couldn't bear others coveting her. In the days before, I was actually so furious I was nearly driven mad. Until that time when I picked her up from her part-time job and returned to school, I ran into her being harassed by hooligans on the roadside. At the moment the man forced a kiss on Song Yusheng, I rushed forward like a madman, beating him half to death. In the instant the blood gushed out, I strangely felt a surge of exhilaration, and a restless boiling within. Later, I began waking up in the early morning. Seeing the glowing screen and the text message on my phone, it was a Shung's number, filled with harsh insults. Fortunately, I didn't click send, but unfortunately, I have no memory of this at all. I began to fall into panic and anxiety, then suffered from sleepless nights. Finally, on the night before graduation, a Shung witnessed me and that female bully in a hotel room. The message was sent by me personally, or rather, by another version of my body. I could clearly hear the hurtful words coming out of my mouth, yet I couldn't control myself. That was the first time I saw her cry, then turn away and leave without looking back. I forced the fruit knife from the coffee table into my thigh, then cut open my palm until the metacarpal bones were exposed. Just to reclaim control of my body, I stumbled forward, bleeding all the way, searching for her trace, but she was as if she had vanished. Even her diploma was collected by someone else. I went back to the U.S. to see a psychiatrist. The doctor said I had dissociative identity disorder. Under my persistent questioning, he said that only by killing the other personality could I regain control of my body, but the risk is extremely high, possibly losing one's own personality and being replaced by another personality. But for a Shung's sake, I want to give it a try, and the doctor said that if we want to proceed, we must not delay for a moment. But I still returned to my home country and found a Shung. He forcibly took her, who had resisted coldly, onto a private jet. That time, my father's closest friend, Uncle Song, turned red-faced with my father for the first time because of me, and he made a harsh statement: if I got close to a Shung again, only one of the Sure and Song families would remain. I saw my father's hair turn white overnight, and he eventually made a promise: as long as she never set foot in America, I would never disturb her life. That day, I bought the notebook I had once scorned. I wrote words blurred by tears. In the darkest moment of my life, I lost my life. After losing a Shung, my world shrank to a room devoid of light. I chained myself with thick iron chains, trying every possible method. When I couldn't bear it anymore, I cut my finger and wrote a Shung's name on the wall. Then I pressed my body tightly against it, easing the ache of longing, until the final attempt. I nearly got killed by another personality. I began to indulge in self-destruction. Utterly defeated, I secretly dumped the meals delivered through the small window every day, then cut off all sources of water. On the brink of death, the instinct to survive made me drink my own urine. In the brief moment of losing consciousness and then regaining it, I saw the blood-written words of another personality surrendering. He said he had an obsession with cleanliness and that I shouldn't drink anything that would make him break down. That message saved me. I wrestled with my thoughts all night, offering myself as a source of sustenance for life. Then I killed him completely. Perhaps I may never be able to let go of this experience. But compared to losing a Shung, none of this matters. But when I recovered, I realized that a Shung already had someone else by her side. I looked at the photo of her working hard with another man, feeling both jealous and bitter. But when I saw her smiling face, I decided to let her go to the person who brought her happiness. It wasn't until I heard the news that she had divorced and left the country that I realized I only had one chance in my life to win her back. After Uncle Song's outburst, my father led them into that room. From then on, a Shung returned to being the a Shung she once was, even becoming more tolerant toward me. And when I secretly went to see her sleeping at night, I noticed something was off about her. At first, she would cry in her sleep, then she would fall asleep clutching her stuffed doll, tears streaming down her face. Finally, she was sleepwalking in the room, shouting, "Baby, Mommy is sorry to you all." I went to ask the psychologist from back then. He said that a Shung was a patient with emotional suppression. People with this personality, if someone they care about wrongs them, will tear apart their emotions and restructure them to lessen the harm to themselves, then gradually became indifferent to that person, in order to protect myself. But if you suppress guilt toward others, you might trap yourself in the awareness of your own guilt, unable to move forward. I told Uncle Song and Aunt Jing what the doctor said. Uncle Song collapsed to the ground, blaming himself, while Aunt Jing immediately fainted from crying, and I tightly dug my nails into the palm of my hand. We have all hurt a Shung at some point. The doctor's advice was to take her out for walks more often, To help calm her mood and keep her from having time to overthink, avoid saying anything about the baby in front of her, Ashung's condition gradually improved under our careful care, but heaven was unjust. As a young child passed by Ashung and was instantly killed under the wheels of a car, Ashung, with a hand raised to block, immediately fell into madness. I took her, unconscious and delirious, back to my villa, staying awake for days without sleep, talking to her, trying to her to consciousness. Finally, when my voice was nearly gone from exhaustion, I managed to fully awaken her. When I woke up after sleeping for 3 days and nights, I saw Ashung anxiously waiting by my side. That night, I pulled out my long-forgotten notes and wrote the closing line, thankful to the heavens for their mercy, bringing her back to my side. After marriage, I welcomed the fruit of my life and Ashung's. I held her, tears streaming down her face, and said to her, Asheng, I told you, the things you've lost will one day return to you in another way. You see, now both you and I have fulfilled the prophecy. I felt the softness of her in my arms. I would never tell her that I secretly threw away more than 100 letters of repentance and pleas for reconciliation that Liu Beichen had sent her, and repeatedly blocked Liu Beichen from going abroad to find her. Since he misses Ashung so much, I'll send him more photos of our sweet moments. I've already told Liu Beichen that Ashung is mine now, and he and his dog must not come near, but he doesn't believe me.